XS Wireless Digital is the perfect wireless audio solution for content creators and filmmakers. Thanks to a 2.4 GHz transmission, XS Wireless Digital is a truly plug-and-play system that allows you to upgrade your in-camera audio with one-button operation. With a variety of configurations to choose from, this entry point into the world of wireless will improve your workflow and will expand the possibilities of how you capture audio for your video. For more information, visit sennheiser.com/XSWD.
The new Super 35 sensor that Canon have introduced with the C300 Mark III is quite a big step up from other S35 sensors that they have created before. From the body and the flexibility that gives us in terms of the expansion packs and the interchangeable mount, to the sensor with its increased dynamic range for tackling scenes that possibly we couldn't have tackled or captured faithfully before, I can get more out of this camera. My money goes further. It's as simple as that from a business standpoint. From a creative point of view, it's unquestionably unlocking more creative avenues for us as filmmakers.
XS Wireless Digital is the perfect wireless audio solution for content creators and filmmakers. Thanks to a 2.4 GHz transmission, XS Wireless Digital is a truly plug-and-play system that allows you to upgrade your in-camera audio with one-button operation. With a variety of configurations to choose from, this entry point into the world of wireless will improve your workflow and will expand the possibilities of how you capture audio for your video. For more information, visit sennheiser.com/xswd.
The new Super 35 sensor that Canon have introduced with the C300 Mark III is quite a big step up from other S35 sensors that they have created before. From the body and the flexibility that gives us in terms of the expansion packs and the interchangeable mount, to the sensor with its increased dynamic range for tackling.
Hello everyone, welcome to Pro VTV. Thank you very much for joining me here. We've got some surprisingly exciting new PTZ cameras from Canon to talk about today. And because of that, I am joined by the lovely Mehdia from Canon UK. Thank you so much for joining me, Mehdia.
Thanks for having me. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us.
Absolutely.
Hopefully today everyone will learn something about, PTZ cameras, which they have been in the market for years, but for us, this is the first time we're actually announcing these, which we will be managing ourselves, because obviously there are other PTZ cameras that we have that use for networking and security.
Yes.
So these are different set of cameras that we will be talking about.
Yeah, it's not your first PTZ cameras as a brand, is it? It's your first sort of really AV targeted PTZ brand range. I mean, these are very AV targeted. These are basically a camcorder in a PTZ shell, aren't they? I mean, we'll go through the features in detail, but I mean, the sensors alone, they're beautiful 4K large sensors from your pretty much plucked straight from your camcorder range by the looks of things. I know you can't officially really confirm that way, but I imagine. But these certainly look very, very capable. So as we go throughout this, we'll talk through the slides, talk through the specs of the cameras and the controllers and everything. If you have questions throughout, by the way, just leave them in the YouTube chat as we're going, or in the comments on Facebook. I will bring them up, and some questions I'll do throughout if it's relevant, or if I know it's going to be answered later on, I might hold it back, and any bigger picture ones we'll save till the end. So I'll sort of moderate. So if I'm not answering your question straight away, that might be why I might be saving it to the end so that we can talk about it properly rather than casually talking about it during the slides. But if it's relevant to the slides, I'll try and bring it up as we go. I can see Dan the Man Porter joining me. It's 2 a.m. over there in Melbourne. Well, you put Mel, but I assume that's Melbourne in Australia. If it's 2 a.m. Thank you for joining us and staying awake for this. That's insane. Thank you very much,
Dan. It would
Dan.
be worth it.
It'll be worth it. They're good cameras.
Definitely.
Right. Let's jump straight into these slides, shall we? So it's a rather epic looking starting photo of the camera sort of towering above you.
Yeah, so as I said, as you basically highlighted, today, as I said, we're introducing a set of remote camera systems. So we're not just basically talking about individual products, we're talking about a whole solution. As you can see in this slide, so we have the 3 cameras, 2 indoor, two cameras used for indoors, and then the outdoor one, and then controllers as well, so a hardware controller and a software version. So you do get a full solution rather than just the cameras individually. Moving on to the cameras, so we'll cover the 3 cameras and then we'll go into the controllers as well. As you can see from the range, starting with the smaller one, so we have the CRN 300. So that will be the entry level camera. The 3 cameras obviously offer the 4K recording, which, as I said, suitable for a wide range of applications. You're looking, as I said, broadcast, education, sports, events, music, sport, etc. I mean, so they're a wide range, and they will overlap as well because, as I said, this is an entry level one, and then especially with the next one up, which is the N500, you will see that they cannot, basically you can have a setup mixing these cameras together depending on what you need. So let's start with the CRN 300. As you can see, so this particular one is equipped with a 1/2.3-inch CMOS sensor. It is a 4K CMOS sensor, meaning you get up to 4K 30. A 20 times optical zoom as well. There are a few features that we'll go into more details about them as well. You get hybrid autofocus as well, so fast and accurate autofocus, built-in NDs. You get that smooth and precise control of pan, tilt, and zoom. Flexible connectivity. So this camera, you get 3G SDI, HDMI, IP, USB as well. The camera, in terms of video-wise, supports H.265. You also get H.264 as well. In terms of supported protocols, the two indoor cameras support the Canon XE protocol, NDI-HX, which is worth highlighting that it is actually included for free with the 2 cameras, so you don't need to pay for any additional license.
Absolutely. That's just want to emphasize that point before we crack on. NDI, for any of you not familiar with NDI, it's pretty much the most widely used nowadays IP standard for sending the video and audio over IP, not just the camera control. There's lots more for just camera control, obviously, but for sending the actual program over IP as well. NDI is hugely popular now. We sell a lot of, nearly all of our, well, probably not nearly all, but over half of our customers buying PTZ cameras are wanting to use them with some sort of an NDI system. So having NDI-HX actually included in the cameras without having to pay for an external license on top, because on some other cameras that can cost between like £200 and £500 for this optional license just to enable NDI-HX. So including that in these cameras is brilliant. Ming Learn's video is saying, is it NDI-HX2 or is it just the normal NDI-HX?
Just
do you know that?
As far as I know, just the standard one.
Okay. I can't remember, to be honest, Ming, what the differences are between numbers 1 and 2. I'm more familiar with the normal, the full fat version of the NDI, if you like. I think it's the
I'm pretty sure it's
one.
not the 2. So
cool. That is absolutely fine. So yeah, just wanted to emphasise that. Let's carry on. Sorry.
No, it's fine. And then obviously RTP, RTSP, the RTMP, and VSCO over IP as well. So if you have a Sony system, for example, and you want to integrate the Canon, these Canon PTZ cameras into that system, you can, because obviously they support the VSCO over IP, so you can control all the cameras, Canon or Sony or any other camera that actually support the VSCO over IP with the same controller.
Sure. So let's talk about autofocus, because autofocus to me is the headline feature with these cameras. That's to me is your unique selling point over the other brands of PTZ cameras, because you've really gone, I mean, Canon's always gone above and beyond with autofocus, but these cameras seem to have just as good an autofocus as your camcorder systems.
Yeah, so with the M300, you got hybrid AF, which is, as I said, it's different to dual pixel CMOS AF. The way the hybrid AF works is you have two sensors. So one at the imaging sensor level that uses contrast AF, and then another one external sensor that actually uses the phase difference AF, which we know how fast it is. The combination of the two gives you that fast and accurate autofocus, even when using the camera in low light conditions.
Do you think it would necessarily be better in low light conditions than normal dual pixel autofocus, or do you think it would be sort of just as good?
I would probably say is good. I think with the external sensors, you can probably question it, but I would probably say it will just give you similar performance.
Okay. I mean, so to put this in perspective for people watching at home, I mean, if you ignored that external sensor and the phase difference part of it and just had the imaging sensor with contrast-based autofocus, that is what nearly every single other PTZ camera on the market uses. And so to add in the entry-level one, this phase detector external sensor already gives you a leap forward, and then the bigger one, the N500, takes that even further, as we'll get onto in a minute. But yeah, I think this is a big deal, because for this sort of unmanned, really PTZ cameras are so important when you don't have a camera operator there. Autofocus is fantastic for that situation. That's exactly the sort of situation where you want autofocus. And so I think this is just a match made in heaven, really.
Yeah, and that's why, I mean, because as you said, you controlling the camera remotely, you would want your focus to be spot on. So you want to be able to have that confidence in the camera to be able to actually focus accurately for you without having to basically be worried about, the challenges, etc.
Absolutely.
So this is definitely a big bonus with both cameras. As I said, with the N500, you have dual pixel CMOS AF, which everyone is familiar with, but this is, as I said, is still better if we were to compare it to just a standard contrast autofocus.
Ming has just clarified on HX2. He says it's said to have lower latency and a much closer picture quality to the full bandwidth NDI, but thanks for clarifying. And I believe, Ming, I'm right in thinking that it's brand new, isn't it? I think it's only NDI's, it's only NewTek's newest PTZ camera that actually has NDI HX2, if I get that right. So that I'm pretty sure these would be
as I said,
the
it
would
be the standard one,
the normal one. Cool. Okay, so we also get some color picture modes in this smaller one.
Yes, so you get a simplified scene mode because of where it sits in the range. As I said, it's supposed to make it easier for you to use the camera and for camera setup as well, because you don't need to be messing around with camera settings before using it. So just presets depending on what the camera is used for. So you have the portrait, low light. So for events, for example, probably something like portrait mode will do the trick. If the camera is used in events where it's fairly dark, then the low light option will be good. Spotlight, sports. So you do have, I think, a good mix of scene modes that you can use.
Absolutely, they're intelligently created ones. I mean, these are sort of maybe a slightly more consumer approach to picture profiles and color, because this is the more entry level camera in the range. But there are some really sensible choices here that fit very neatly into the sort of work. I mean, Spotlight, for example, is the main one. Well, I suppose Sports as well, but particularly Spotlight here in the UK will be used a lot, because I mean, these are going to be so popular for stage performances and music shows like that, and theatre shows, all the rest of it. So that's good to see.
This slide we've seen on with a number of video cameras, be it camcorders or even Cinema EOS. So the oversampling HD processing with both with the 3 cameras. What basically the camera does, it uses the full 4K capability of the sensor to produce that high resolution full HD. So if you were to compare it to standard full HD, you're actually getting better quality, which
Absolutely.
is great. So if you're not necessarily streaming in 4K or even with HDMI output with the 4K option, so if you're opting for full HD, then you're still guaranteed high quality video.
So when the camera is set to 1080p at all, it will always be properly downsampling that 4K video, not line skipping or pixel binning or anything like that. Always properly downsampling, and that's one of those small little touches that I really like, because it can be very tempting from sort of an engineer's point of view in a camera like this that is more convenience based than image quality based traditionally, to not put features like that in. So this really gives some good faith that the that 1080p performance should be pretty spot on. And this is also something I was very pleased to see.
Yeah, so both, again, cameras do benefit from an optical image stabilizer. With the N300 and with the 500, you get, as I said, the 4-axis correction, correcting vertical and horizontal roll, as well as up and down, right and left. So you still, as I said, this is another element that will ensure that your video quality or the look of your video is as good as it can be. We know, I think most of these cameras are going to be used probably from the ceiling, in a number of setups. So you do want to have that, as I said, as an option, because that will give you flexibility. Don't have to be worried about the slightest shake as well.
Absolutely. They tend to live on the fairly wider, more telly end of their lenses as well. Lots of PTZ cameras for shots exactly like the one used in this clip there as a close-up of somebody. And so image stabilization is, of course, hugely important.
This is just basically just to give everyone an idea about the multiple output video output that this camera offers. So via IP, you get in a maximum resolution of 4K, and that's up to 2997 frames per second, 4208-bit. You can also do full HD. As I said, it is choice. With full HD, you can go up to 5997. And 4208-bit again. With SDI, the maximum resolution is full HD.
Because it's a 3G SDI, right? Yeah,
so it's a 3G SDI. Full HD, highest, as I said, 5994. You can do 50p, 50i, 25p, 2398, and at 42210-bit. And then with the HDMI, that's again where you see in the 4K resolution again. Highest resolution is 4K, but you can still do full HD. You can do 720 as well if you want to. With full HD or 720, you can go up to, as I said, 5994 or 50, 25p as well. And they all will be at 4210-bit. One thing that this camera, excuse me, that has over the N500 is USB out as well, which means you can use this camera as a webcam without the need of any additional hardware.
Excellent.
And that will be full HD out of the camera.
Which will probably be the most simplified and basic way of using one of these cameras,
Very
really, isn't
setup,
it? I mean, you don't need no multicam, no anything. Just take the camera, plug it into the mains, USB into your laptop. You're good to go.
Yes, just USB-C from the camera, and then connect it to your laptop, and you're basically ready to go to use it.
Absolutely. Right, so let's talk about the bigger sibling, shall we? This is the camera that I think is the main one here, the star of the show.
That's true. So this is, as I said, the CRN 500 producing exceptional image quality, and as I said, you'll see in the next slide, it is equipped with features and functions that suits the need of many industries. So you're looking at broadcast, house of worship, education, corporate events, and many more applications. In terms of the key spec, as you can see, that the camera does have a 1-inch CMOS sensor, so a larger sensor than the other one, delivering that 4K again up to 30. You're getting 15 times optical zoom. That ranges from 25.5 to 382 millimeters, so it's quite a good range. Dual pixel CMOS AF, so you are getting that fast, precise and accurate autofocus that everyone is familiar with, where in a large number of our cameras, stills or video. Built-in ND filters. You also get the 3G SDI, HDMI, and IP, so triple output. 2 XLR inputs as well. You get in professional audio,
which is very rare on PTZs. Both ND filters and XLR inputs are very rare on PTZs. I mean, these aren't the first PTZs with it built-in NDs or XLRs, but I mean they are very rare. Nearly all of them don't.
I mean, you do get, with the NDs, you do get flexibility if you're shooting in a very bright environment and you want to keep your aperture wide open. This is a solution, so that you don't have to worry about having to attach external NDs. So having that flexibility with 3, so you have a quarter, 16th or 64th densities, does give you that flexibility.
And with the larger 1-inch sensor plus the dual pixel autofocus, I do really see these being a camera that is used to get that sort of operated camcorder look of a slightly shallower depth of field, but in a remote PTZ, because the autofocus can keep it all in focus for you. You get your 1-inch sensor and a faster aperture in order to get the background slightly out of focus. You know, that's something that's actually really quite hard to do on a lot of other PTZs, and certainly hard to keep in focus if you do it. And ND filters is how you're going to be able to do that when you're outside.
You also have, as I said, there is a H.265 support as well as H.264, YDR and C-Log as well. So YDR to maximize your dynamic range without the need of post. But if you recording, if you're sending that footage to an external recorder and you want that flexibility in post, then you have C-Log as well, which is great. So C-Log 3, that will give you between 30 and 14 stops of dynamic range.
That's full C-Log 3. Wow.
And then, as we mentioned with the CRN 300, you do get support of various protocols. So there is the Canon XE protocol. You also have, as I said, the NDI-HX, which again, it is free, so you don't need to pay for any additional license. As well as obviously you have the RTMP, RTMPS, VSCO over IP support as well for that seamless IP control and streaming.
It's just, Bob has just put that N500 in black is something I'd expect to see on Darth Vader's desk. Pretty stylish. I like that. It looks much more friendly than anything from then.
It's not that. It is bigger than the other one, but it's not too big. And to be honest, when you see it on its own, you won't be able to actually imagine how big it is. But it's not.
We've also had a question from Video Editor Bloke about the image stabilization. He says that 4-axis correction, just to get his head around it, does that mean it digitally warps the image to make it look right, i.e. straight on? It is purely optical image stabilization, right, Mehtal?
Yeah, so it's an optical one. So it's not an electronic one that is doing it digitally. This is fully optical.
If I go back to that slide just really quickly. So the roll correction and is just sort of doing left to right, you know, and then the vertical. it's about minute wobbles. It's not really about being at the wrong angle to correct it. It's exactly the same system as you find in any of the Canon lenses, you know, the 70-200 lenses and the wildlife
You see in the
lenses, that sort of
camcorders as well.
And the camcorders,
so, yeah.
Absolutely. Okay.
Okay, so yeah, so those are probably one of the key 3 elements that make this camera actually great in terms of, as I said, the image quality, because you're looking at a larger sensor, giving you that shallow depth of field, better low light performance than smaller sensors, dual pixel CMOS AF, so that fast, precise autofocus, and then Digic DV6 processor. So the processor makes a massive difference, allowing the camera obviously to do the over processing, so giving you that better full HD, affecting the speed of the autofocus, and even overall basically affecting the image quality. So giving you the best quality possible for that sensor. And then to add our optics as well, because obviously we are using high quality optics with all the PTZ cameras we're talking about today. And that will help in producing that crisp, sharp videos.
Absolutely. I mean, Canon's a lens manufacturer at heart, really. So I'm sure they will be fantastic optics.
So this is, as I said, works exactly the same way as with the CRN 300. The camera uses the the full capability of the sensor, so the 4K sensor, to produce better full HD. So you get more details with this full HD compared to just the standard one.
Absolutely. Downsampling,
which is
so
great,
important.
as I said, for IP. Yeah.
It also hides noise and anything nasty like that as well down, so it makes a huge difference to the image. And this is a slide that we're very familiar with from the Canon sort of cinema lineup and the camcorder lineup.
Yeah, it is a slide that we've seen for a number of years. Obviously, over the years, the dual pixel CMOS AF has improved massively. So it is actually, as I said, you're getting that fast, precise autofocus over a larger area. So you're looking at 80 by 80% of the sensor. I think everyone has been using it now for years, and it's now trusted autofocus, so I don't think anyone will challenge or criticize how good the autofocus or dual pixel CMOS AF is. You still have the same kind of options that people are familiar with the stills or the video cameras, in terms of having one shot or continuous AF, fine-tuning the AF as well, so adjusting the AF speed or the AF response. And if we go to the next slide, you also have phase detection. So if you're at events, for example, or loads of, scenarios where people basically involved, the camera will basically detect faces and keep them in focus. If you're after a particular face, you can actually track that particular face and ignore the other faces in the frame as well. Which is
absolutely huge. I mean, I said in the video that I released at the launch an hour or so ago, this to me is the biggest thing about these cameras by far, and one of the biggest sort of changes that I think the PTZ industry as a whole, other than maybe the development of things like NDI, is going to go through, because there are so many situations where face detect autofocus is useful for PTZs in specifically. You know, if you think about where PTZs are most commonly used by sort of the average PTZ user, you know, it'll be a lecture in a uni. You know, if we take just that situation, you've got one lecturer standing in front of a big screen and a big projector, and then they're going to take a step to their right and talk, and then they're going to take a couple of steps to their left and talk, and they're going to pace a little bit as they move. And with the normal PTZs, it would either be in full autofocus searching, or it would be in preset modes with manual focus, which just doesn't work in that situation. So having proper face detect is going to be really beneficial. And I think in your launch videos, there was some footage of musicians, you know, just simple stage music show. And face tracking is perfect for that. Absolutely perfect for it.
And then you can also, particularly probably easier especially I think now the software is what's available. Obviously, it will be available in April with the first camera. You have Touch AF as well, so you can actually, if you're using the software application, you can actually select where you want the camera, basically to which subject you want the camera to track, be it a face or something else as well, which is great.
Absolutely.
And again, this is another familiar slide. For more accurate manual focus, this camera also offers the dual pixel focus guide that uses the information from dual pixel CMOS AF to assist you, basically to let you know whether it's front or back focusing, and then which way you're supposed to turn the manual focus to achieve the focus a lot quicker. And you get that confirmation as well, so you know that that particular subject or a face, it is definitely in focus, rather than having to be concerned or probably zooming in to check your focus. You do get that confirmation, which is reassuring as well.
And again, will be maybe even so more useful here than it is on camcorders and cinema cameras, simply because, if you've got an IP, say you've got your Windows software, and you're trying to manually focus these cameras through there because you don't want to use the autofocus because you're worried that it will change focus without you wanting it to. You're trying to set your presets. Trying to judge focus over an IP stream in a multi-window, multi-cam environment like that can be really difficult. And so having this will help massively for that sort of situation. So, gammas, I mean...
Again, this is a familiar slide we've seen on a few of the camcorders, but we've seen more on like CineMOS cameras with C-Log 3. As I said, that if you're recording externally, does give you the flexibility for post and color grading. YDR, if you just want the best quality possible without having to worry about post. And then deep image setting as well. So there is a lot that you can actually adjust in terms of sharpness, noise reduction, black balance, as I said, the typical like white balance. And you do, as I said, you can pretty much change every single aspect of that image if you really want to go to that extent.
Which, again, I'm very, very pleased to see, simply because we're dealing with most PTZ cameras, they tend to have quite a baked-in image. Just a normal Rec 709 image, and then they give you sort of RGB control, maybe with a color wheel, something like that. You might get some control over your image, but it's nothing like sort of this level, being able to get down into the noise reduction, the sharpness, so you can dial everything right back to have as untouched image as possible, even just in normal Rec 709 or in WideDR. But then you've also got C-Log 3 as well, so for post-produced PTZs, this is huge. I mean, particularly in the world we now live in, where everyone's trying to social distance, having remote cameras which can do full C-Log 3 for post-produced work, so we're not even talking about live streaming at all here. You could use that to be capturing over SDI 10-bit 422 C-Log 3 files into like a Blackmagic rack with HyperDex and things like that in ProRes files, and you get beautifully post-produced images for post-production.
I mean, there are 6 color presets as well, so you can actually match the look and the color with other cameras. C-Log, obviously, C-Log 3, and YDR with either the BT709 color space or even BT2020 color space as well. So you do have loads of options to choose from.
Absolutely. I think this will be a fantastic PTZ for fitting into that sort of post-produced workflow as well, rather than just normal multicam that you traditionally think of PTZs being used for.
Yeah, I mean, you have the combination of 4K out of via IP, but you also have SDI and HDMI and the 2 XLRs as well, plus C-Log 3 for, like, as I said, broadcast or any application where you'll need that level of control and flexibility. This is definitely the camera for it.
Absolutely. So let's talk about these built-in ND filters then. So it said probably again, I think those that
don't know if we actually did any talks on camcorders, but this is a similar slide to what we talk about with camcorders. So built-in NDs, as you said, not many PTZ cameras with that option. 3 densities. So as I said, you have quarter, 1/16th, and 1/64th. Again, it does give you flexibility. If you shoot in, if the camera is getting used somewhere where it's bright. If you think of, for example, churches where you have these massive windows, in the light in, but you want to get that depth of field and open up your aperture, this is one way around it. So you do get that flexibility, and obviously it helps with creativity as well.
And stage shows, you know, some spotlights in stage shows can be very, very bright. Very bright. Right, so this is I believe it's actually just the same numbers.
It's the same, it's the same. So you just, with the CRN 300, you have the USB-C for webcam use. The rest, as I said, in terms of the output from IP, SDI, and HDMI is the same with the 2 cameras.
And here's the size comparison between.
This is a comparison. I mean, I guess it's still not easy to actually see how big it is. There are some measurements in there just to give people an idea. Definitely not as big as what people actually imagine, but then again, if you think about what's needed in terms of the optics and everything else that the camera needs to deliver that quality,
sure, but we're only talking about 27 centimeters tall. I mean, I think because of the sort of almost quite chunky base on the N500, it looks in photos like it would be quite big. But if you try and visualize 27 centimeters, you know, a normal 30 centimeter ruler, that's not actually that large at all, is it?
Yeah, it's not that big.
This one, on the other hand, I think is going to be a bit bigger.
Yeah, so this is our outdoor PTZ camera. Again, I mean, it might be an outdoor camera, but it is actually still equipped with features and technologies from our photo and video cameras, with, as I said, the 1-inch sensor again. The 4K with this one, it does have 12G SDI as well. So if you really want to push it, you've got 12G SDI, and that supports 4K UHD up to 60, which is great, and that's 422 10-bit. 15 times zoom when you're in 4K, 30 times zoom in full HD. So again, it's giving you that flexibility if you need the additional zoom. Dual pixel CMOS AF, so again, that reliable, trusted autofocus. That smooth pan, tilt, and zoom operation. I mean, the 3 of them have the same thing in terms of how smooth it is to operate. This one is, because obviously it's an outdoor one, controlled by serial, but you can get you can control it via IP if you were to get a conversion box. Waterproof and dustproof to IP55 standards. You also get the C-Log 3 and YDR, again, if you were to use it in a scenario where you're recording externally. And as I said, the 12G SDI.
So really, this is a much more specialist one. This is for mounting in big sporting events, you know, big
so stadiums, for example,
big gigs, and, you know, music theatres, that sort of an environment, right?
Yeah.
And serial being sent over sort of fibre technology is perfect for running those cables very long distances and having a very robust and weatherproof cable, rather than anything a little weaker and more prone to problems. So let's talk about how you control these.
Okay, so you have 2 ways of controlling it. There is a free version, and then there is the hardware version. So with the as well as the 3 cameras, we have 2 control solutions. We have the remote camera control application, and then we have the camera controller, the RC IP100, which is the proper kind of hardware controller that you can use with the cameras. The 3 of them, because you can use basically a serial control with this and the CRX 500, or via IP with the other 2 cameras. So you do have that flexibility. The software application is free. We'll go into more details on that, because I think if we go to the next slide, please. Yeah, so starting with the hardware version. So as I said, the RC-IP100, you can control, as I said, up to 100 PTZ cameras over IP with a single operator. I mean, you might not need 100 PTZ cameras, but it just shows our flexibility.
If he's controlling 100 PTZ cameras, but
you can assign control to another one via software, I guess, to help if you need to. You get a 7-inch touch screen. Again, that will give you the option to adjust camera settings, just adjusting white balance, shutter speed, and then switching between different cameras as well. It is actually the user interface on that screen is very easy to follow. And then you have the joystick again, so that will be for the adjustment of camera movement, so panning, tilting. There is also the zoom rocker, so this probably people are familiar with when it comes to camcorders. Give you that control over the zoom, so going from wide and then zooming all the way to, depending on which camera you're using, 15, 20. Focus dials.
Yeah, that focus dial is that little F1 that's marked F4 beneath the pan and tilt joystick, right?
No, so that's so that's the little button underneath the bigger joystick. So
yes,
sorry,
okay.
That's the focus. Yeah. Again, so that will give you precise control over autofocus, or you can basically push of a button. You can basically do the one-shot AF, but by just pressing it. On the right hand side, you have the as I said, additional buttons that you can actually customize on the top of the zoom rocker. That you get up to 6 buttons that you can actually customize, again, which is great. Each camera will give you up to basically 100 preset positions that you can have. So you can imagine 100 cameras, 100 presets. Yeah, single operator, I think, will struggle with that one, but it's still doable. The camera will still give you the option to camera and controller. You can still do that. As I said, yeah, so customizable controls.
Absolutely. And I think because of the touchscreen, this looks like I mean, I'm dying to sort of get one of these and start playing about with it, but it looks like it's going to be a much more intuitive and sort of user-friendly UI because of that big 7-inch touchscreen. You know, you're going to be able to navigate it so much easier.
Yeah, because you have like the top kind of menus, and then every option you click, it will give you like the sub menu for that, whether it's camera settings, or if you're looking at different cameras, which camera by number, the number of basically the presets as well. So it is very easy to follow as well.
Yeah, it looks much more familiar to me and less intimidating than quite a few PTZ controllers on the market, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, this is the one to be obviously that we have that can be used with other cameras. But if whoever else actually is looking to get PTZ cameras and want to integrate our cameras with other existing PTZ that they're using, then as I said, there are controllers that will
we'll do all of them over
especially
Visca.
Visca, for example. Exactly. And you can mix different cameras and use a single controller to do that.
Yeah, this controller will use your XC protocol, I guess?
Yes, XC protocol, yes.
Video Edgefolk's asking, can you move smoothly between the camera preset positions? I guess that means, are there controls for how quickly and smoothly when you press preset 2, whether it goes quickly to it or whether it smoothly moves to it?
Oh, the transition.
Do you know that?
I don't actually know. I know, obviously, as I said, you get 100, but moving from one to the other, it's usually just pressing one and it jumps into the other.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you can actually control how smooth that is.
It might well give you some sort of control. Lots of them do. So that'll be one to find out once we actually get a unit in our hands.
You do have the trace option where you can obviously record a sequence of tilt, pan, and zoom.
Oh, okay.
And yeah. So
like
that
a
you could do some
trigger, so it's like a save a movement and then fire that. That's interesting.
So maybe that's something that will work better in this scenario. I'm not sure.
Okay. Right. So the free one, the Windows PC.
Yeah. So yeah, as you said, Windows. So at the moment it's only on Windows computers, but it is free application that gives you full control over the our PTZ cameras. You can control up to 20 Canon PTZ cameras, and with each Canon camera, Canon PTZ, you have again 100 presets. You do have the trace function as well, where you actually record it and then execute it. Pretty much similar. You get similar controls to what we've seen on the as I said, the hardware controller. You can have up to 9 basically cameras on the screen at any time. So you could basically monitoring 9 cameras at any time. You can, as I said, with the preset positions on the left-hand side of the screen, so you can easily change from one to the other. Just in panning, tilting, and then the zoom. You can customize the keyboard on your laptop or desktop to actually operate the cameras, which would make it a lot easier as well. So it feels, I think, to a certain extent, it feels like you're using a hardware controller, but just all in a PC. As I said, at the moment it's Windows only.
Sure.
But the option is there. You can control it wirelessly as well. So if you have Windows kind of tablet, then you can control it wirelessly, because, as I said, the cameras do have Wi-Fi option.
And because it gives you some monitoring as well, really makes this quite capable. I mean, with a little SDI recorder, for example, on the back of each camera, you can have 3 cameras at a tiny event. You know, I'm talking small events here, you know, school theatres, things like that. You could have 3 cameras with a little SDI recorder on the back of them, and then being fed over IP into this. So you're recording the SDI output, but then you're controlling them and monitoring them as an operator with this, ready to post-produce it later.
I mean, for a free software controller, it is actually great, because they said you can pretty much do everything with this. Obviously the limitation is you can only control up to 20, which is not 100 like with the hardware controller.
Sure.
But I mean, most commonly people are not going to go up to 20 cameras at any time.
No.
So it's still great, and to have free as well to use.
Absolutely.
Well, you can combine. I mean, I guess it depends on the setup that you're having. So
to round up here, you've got a couple of sort of
I just thought
common
it might
examples.
be easier. So as I said, this is just using a single camera.
In fact, this first one is exactly what I was just mentioning, a little recorder based on the back of it, on each camera, and them being fed into a network switch to control and monitor from a laptop. That's exactly what I'm talking about, and you can replicate that with 3 cameras going to 3 different recorders. Pretty easy.
Yeah, so the example on the left is with the software controller, and then the one on the right is with the hardware controller. In those 2 examples, you're recording externally as well. But as I said, it's fairly easy, simple kind of setups, whether it's a single camera or 3 or 4 or even more. It's very easier, as I said, to set up. The next one is a multi-camera setup, and as you can see on there, you have even a camcorder as well, and 2 of our PTZ cameras. Control using our controller, but as I said, you have an external recorder, and then you have a switch as well, which, as I said, you can use obviously with the camcorders, or even with with the cameras, as well as with our camcorders. There's the option for streaming as well, or live streams. So you do have that option as well. Fairly easy setups. Anyway, as I said, if we're not talking about a Canon setup, they can easily integrate into any, because of the different protocols that they support.
Sure. I mean, this is a very common sort of example setup in the industry. We had a comment from It's Just Bob saying they seem like they'd work perfectly with something like the A10 Mini for switches. And this is exactly the sort of setup you would use. You'd have an HDMI cable coming out of each of them into an A10 Mini, your multicam monitor and laptop connected to that to stream or whatever. And then a Ethernet cable coming out of each of them into a switch so that you can control them from your same laptop or from the hardware controller. We've got some questions coming in about PoE. So Technical is asking, are both of these cameras able to be powered by PoE? And St Mary's Hitchin is saying, which version of PoE, plus
PoE
or plus plus?
So
both
PoE
of them
plus.
are PoE plus.
Yes.
Excellent. There we go. Which is nice because actually quite a lot of 4K cameras, especially
the
4K
PoE plus, aren't they?
ones with a large 1-inch sensor are PoE plus plus, exactly. So
I mean, you do get the mains obviously lead with it, so you can power it from the mains if you want to. But yes, you can power it power over Ethernet, as I said, and it is the PoE plus.
Absolutely. So that comes us to the end of our slides. I know we've been answering most questions as we go throughout there, but if anyone has anything they feel hasn't been answered, now is the time to leave that in the YouTube chat so that we can discuss it a little bit at the end. St Mary's Hitchin is asking, are the presets stored in the camera so could be switched via Visca IP, or are they stored in the controller? Do you know? Again, that might be one to investigate once we get hands-on with some sample units.
I think I know with the trace, for example, it is stored in camera, which means anyone can actually use it or execute it. So it should be the same for the presets.
Okay, so they might well be stored in camera. We'll investigate that.
Yeah,
more
I'll double check, but yeah.
Samples here. Lucky Lukey is saying, when will Canon will present a variable ND filter system? I guess he means like Sony's electronic variable ND. Because you have some variable ND systems, for example, on the still side and on the little mount for the EOS R system you use with a variable ND slot in. But I assume he's meaning in-camera variable ND, like Sony's electronic ND.
I mean, I guess it's probably something to look into. I mean, this is the start of this system that we covering, and as mentioned before, and then looking at a number of PTZ cameras, the majority of them don't have that option. So I think just giving that to start with, it's already a good thing to have. Maybe in the future, I mean, this is just a starting point. Hopefully we'll just have to wait and see.
Sure. And that's a technology that isn't on any of your cameras yet, so would obviously be a very interesting development for you guys to work on in the future, but isn't here right now. So I'm just looking back through the comments. Minglam video is saying he's keen to test out how it matches with the C100 Mark II and the C70. Certainly sounds like there's a lot of potential to do so.
With the presets, you can definitely, as I said, match the look and the colors from different cameras. So yeah,
having YDR and C-Log3 in there will make that very easy. Absolutely. Cool. Okay, I think that seems to be it for questions. So we will wrap it up there. So if any of you have any more questions, or if anyone watching this after the fact has any questions about these, just leave them down in the comment section on YouTube and I'll get back to you. Or obviously just get in touch with us here at ProAV and we'll be happy to help you. They are all up on, so let me just come out of the PowerPoint and bring up our website so that we can show you them on the website. So I should have prepped this beforehand, really. There we go. So there's the nice new front page banner for them. So these are them on the website. So the smaller ones are retailing for £2,136, 65 pence ex-VAT, and the N500 is £4,274, £15 ex-VAT, and I believe they are all up for pre-orders. Now, there we go. Yep, expected in April. So if you are interested in these, head over to the website and you can pre-order them there, or of course, just get in touch with our sales team. Right, thank you so much for running us through that, Mehdia.
No problem. Thank you for having me again. And as I said, if you get any questions, please let us know. And then the couple of points I think that we need to confirm on regarding the presets, I'll double check. But as I said, I'm pretty sure it's per camera. So
It's the sort of thing that's always very hard when you've got a tech spec sheet rather than the actual product in front of us. So
it's harder with this one because we usually get the cameras to play with and test. Whereas this, we didn't get this. So well, personally, I didn't get that. So it was just the manual.
Well, thank you very much anyway. Mary's Hitchin is asking, what's the availability going to be like on our website? We're saying April now, right?
For the CRN 300, yes.
There we go. So hopefully not too far away. Hopefully within a month those should be shipping. Graham's just popped up saying the N500 is available in April and the N300 is available in May and June. Thank you very much for that, Graham. That's super useful. Excellent. Okay, thank you all so much for watching. Thank you once again, Mehdia, for running us through all the nitty-gritty details. And if anyone wants to order any of them, head over to prov.co.uk or talk to our sales team. Thank you all very much, and I'll see you very soon.
Thank you. Thanks.
XS Wireless Digital is the perfect wireless audio solution for content creators and filmmakers. Thanks to a 2.4 GHz transmission, XS Wireless Digital is a truly plug-and-play system that allows you to upgrade your in-camera audio with one-button operation. With a variety of configurations to choose from, this entry point into the world of wireless will improve your workflow and will expand the possibilities of how you capture audio for your video. For more information, visit sennheiser.com/XSWD.